the time we were just talking about having a quiz.
Really?
Yeah, we said not to have one.
Oh.
Yes.
We were talking about it though. That's right, right. Technically.
I'm prepared.
Okay, we're good. Okay. All right, so last time we finished up cutting everybody loose to start working with some learning how to do the data analysis for the EEG on your own. We sort of started to cut the cord a little bit, kind of nudge you out of the nest a little bit, sort of spread your wings and fly. When we finished up class last time. So we had just about everybody's systems were operating and working. We had people starting to get the ability to show those three-dimensional maps on the head pretty well. You guys remember all that? And it was working. So we got some cool figures, we got some cool stuff. And then when we got there, the class ended. So what I wanted to do today was sort of pick up from that point and give you guys a chance to work with the data a little bit more, both independently, but of course with me here as a resource and your colleagues here as resources to work with, and sort of develop those skills, because we have our midterm next week, right? So that's a week from today. It's right around the corner, and we have a lot to do in that time, or at least a lot to study for in that regard. And so some of those things not all the things on the test, but some of the things on the test are definitely going to cover, do you know how to analyze data? Can you analyze your data? Do you know what to do? Also, do you know why to do it? Why are you doing what you're doing? Right? You don't want to just be the person just pressing buttons just because that's what it says to do. You want to understand some of the reason, right? Scientifically, intellectually, we want to know what we're doing and why. And so I want to give you guys a chance to work on that a lot today. And that'll help practice those skills a lot. So let's see here. Were there questions on anything that has come up since the time we met last? Just a day or two ago.
Any questions?
Any questions?
Okay, so for the method section, how many words total? Did you ever go over that?
No word limit.
No word limit?
No word limit.
So, do I just put that in this no word limit?
I'm not sure I follow the question.
Okay,
So.
how many words were used for the encoding?
Oh,
phase?
I thought you were asking what the word limit was to like.
I know.
Right.
When you said
I was scratching my head. I'm like, what the heck is going on?
no, this the word.
Wasn't it 100 for us?
It
Okay.
was 100 for us.
Ah, so good question. So she was asking actually not about how many words are expected that we write in the method section, but what did we actually do, right? Which is actually what we're trying to communicate in the method section. So if we have our methods, right? So first of all, first thing we did is people studied information, right? So the information that we happen to study in this experiment is words. But other experiments, you can study faces, you can study pictures, scenes, things, whatever. Maybe later on in the class we'll do an experiment with faces. And you guys can work with some data that we have a memory for faces if you're interested. But let's say, so we studied up the encoded information, words, right? Now the words we actually called, actually you know what I'm going to do? We called the encoded items of information, and they happen to be words, right? Because that's how we're going to talk about it when you write it and stuff, right? It's memory for information, items. And so you want to tell them how many there were. So, anybody remember?
I calculated 96. I put 100.
Yeah, there's about 100. So we encoded about 100 words.
So 2 lists. Because each block is 20.
Ah, okay. So yeah, we gotta specify this information, right? So we did study 100 words, but they were sliced and diced into a couple different conditions, right?
Yeah.
Or categories. Okay, so what do we have?
We had the is it alive?
Okay, so you had a condition of a live condition, or a condition of man-made. And these are basically different tasks, right? So these are basically our encoding tasks. And why do we give them tasks during encoding?
To provide a source or the source.
Yeah, so it helps us to test their source memory later, so it gives us something to ask about where did it come from. It also gives us something to make sure that they weren't sleeping and passed out during the experiment, right? Because it makes them have to respond and do something and think about it a little bit. So experimentally, it helps us in a lot of regards as researchers and scientists. So we had different tasks. So how many words were in each of those respective conditions? If we started with 100, they sliced apart. Basically 50. Is that the end of the story?
No, just the new word.
There's a new story?
No, I was
Yes.
gonna say there's
No,
a
you're
new
right.
word.
You're right. Absolutely. Totally.
And
So-
were there about 50 of those?
But were those new words at encoding?
No.
No.
Ah, okay. So you want to tell your reader later on when you're describing the paradigm, you're saying, we first had participants encode a list of 50 words individually. You know, with half of the words being allocated to condition A and the other half of the words being allocated to condition B, in which they perform different encoding tasks. And then you might want to tell your reader that those encoding tasks served as the basis for source memory tests later. Right? Does that make sense? Pretty logical? Okay. That's pretty helpful information to tell your reader. But then what happened after you encoded information?
Got a break?
You got a break. Okay, so you had a break.
I mentioned in my method section that during the break, because the people I tested, I was like, if they wanted to talk to me, I just said, just don't talk about the experiment.
Yeah, that's cool.
So do we not explain that, how many words per block, since there were 4 blocks?
You don't have to say per block, but you're right, it might be helpful to say they encoded that information in, within 4 blocks. Actually, you know what? That's a good question, because you do want to say that there were 4 encoding blocks, in which and you want to tell them the sequence of those encoding blocks, right? Because they were in different orders. So some of you guys had order one version, and another of you guys had a different version.
So like it was randomized.
Yeah, so some people got the alive condition first, and another half of you guys had the man-made task first, and then it swapped, right? So you want to tell them the order of the blocks was either A, M, M, A, or M, A, M. Emma or MAM, I guess. But you guys know that they're just abbreviations for the A and the M conditions. So it just tells your reader the sequence. So you're right about that. Absolutely great point, Fitria. So again, you're giving them all this information. So if they become a hater at the bar and call BS on you when you're trying to tell them about your results, and they say, I don't believe you, you can say, well, fine. Go run it yourself and prove me wrong. And drop the mic. So when you tell them, fine, go prove it, run it yourself, you want to give them all the information they need to replicate the experiment. Yes, sir.
So when we're explaining how we're going to put them in 2 different groups, and also need to add like when you put in the presentation that we did practice studying.
You don't have to talk about, good question. You don't have to talk about that in a sequential way, so I wouldn't say they did this and then they practiced, and then they did this and then they practiced. You could just say one sentence of it and say subjects were oriented to perform each task by a short practice test that preceded it, conducted with the experiment beforehand. Okay, simple sentence, takes care of everything.
And then we need to also add in like using options like yes and no was comma and then go was graded.
Oh, you don't have to tell them what button they press, no.
Okay.
In the sense of like what button on the keypad was assigned to the yes and no response now.
Because
That's what that
the
means.
person didn't sign anything, they could still do it.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh no, because I just remember you mentioning something about reactions. So I don't know.
Oh, reaction time. Yeah, I don't think so. It's a good point at a very very detailed level of semantics, yeah, if somebody wanted to replicate your thing and they used different keys, so let's say that you use whatever, the period and the comma key, right? Your fingers are next to each other, but some hater at the bar wanted to replicate your thing and show that it was wrong, and so they made him use the P and the Q button. You have drastically different reaction times, right? Because they'd be all the way, and you have to go here, and it takes time to go back and forth. If they did that to you, first of all, they're being a jerk. And if that was the case, then nothing you can do is ever going to satisfy them anyways. And you can sort that out in the literature, basically saying, here's the reason why they might have found discrepant findings from what we found in our laboratory. One very obvious factor is that, you know, we had very reasonably spaced keys or whatever. Most people aren't going to do that, and so that's why I said don't sweat it, don't worry about it. They're going to, you know, I guess it's just sort of intuitive of what people will replicate with. So I think you're on track. It's a good way to think about it. I'm just trying to save you some trouble of getting into too much minutia. But they're really good questions across the board. Ask me these things about minutia so that some of the stuff you do want to include, and sometimes you don't, and you're not going to know that unless you ask sometimes. So by all means, this is the time for me to help you sort some of those details out. Is that a question?
Yeah, I have two questions. One, when I looked at the presentation, like the form, the actual like words, study words, there's 24 words per block. Is it meant to be 25?
No, it was based on how it divided between the numbers that we had and some of the practice trials. It was just a little division issue between that and the at test. We had to include it because at test we had to divide between 6 sessions, and so we needed a number that divided evenly between it. It's a trivial difference for the purpose of writing this stuff.
Just put the 100.
It's just easier to do 25 or 50 and 100.
Okay.
So that's for the purpose of the class. Don't sort those details.
And then my second question is that the words that we got, because from your 2012 paper, you got it from the psycholinguistic database,
Yeah,
right?
just say you got it from there.
Okay. Just okay. With the mean words and with the.
Yeah, you could just take that sentence.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh no, the practice words. The words don't repeat, right? Do we see those practice words? Because I felt like sometimes you do.
So the practice ones might have repeated
Okay.
because they don't matter.
Okay.
They're practice. So I don't know if any of you guys remember Allen Iverson from the early 2000s. He had a big famous meme that kind of blew up. And people were complaining that he cut practice, and then he gave an interview and he's like, "It's practice. Who cares? It's just practice. It ain't a game." So I always say that about the practice trials. Yeah, they don't always match up to all of our parameters, like being replicated or whatever, or repeated, because it's just practice. We're not going to test their memory for them, and we don't pay that much attention to it because we just throw them away. They're just practice trials.
Well, because like when I actually did it, I was wondering like I saw a word in the practice, and then I saw a word in the encoding, and I'm like, wait, now I forgot where I saw that. So
So you had a failure of source memory.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Ah.
But I was like, did I see it in the practice or did I see it in the live? And I was like, wait, did that word appear 3 times or twice? Like, so I was just wondering if that
Yeah.
was
If it was a practice word, it might have appeared a couple times.
Okay.
But we're never going to test memory for that unless it's in the practice session of the test session.
Okay.
In which case you will see it again, just so that people can practice actually remembering something and you can walk through how they respond on the scale with them and do all that kind of thing.
Okay.
But yeah, very, very astute points. Very good pickup. Any other questions on that? Feel pretty good? Okay, so we encoded some words, so took a break, and then we had memory retrieval, right? Memory retrieval, of course, different encoding. So then they retrieve the words, and we tell them how many words did we include. We included the same 100 words that were encoded. We called those the old items, right? Is that all the words that they saw at retrieval? No, so Kelsey, you said just a moment ago we got kind of sidetracked. You said there was new words too, right?
There's like
We just couldn't. We can't talk about the new words up here yet because they haven't happened. So we want to tell that where in the experiment did they occur. Of course, they're occurring back here. And so, how many new words do we include? About 50. Yeah.
150. That's where my total came from.
Yeah. So you add those suckers up. A little bit of healthy addition, and you got 150 items. We can call them test items. as opposed to words, but you can use words, it doesn't matter. So that's going to be your total number of stimuli used was 150, but you want to explain the breakdown of how they were, how many were in each respective condition. Does that make sense? Okay. Any other questions come up on the methods stuff? See if I can push that to the board for you guys, or to the folder for you guys. Any other questions come up right in the methods draft? Yes, sir.
Wasn't there 25 for each for the test sessions? So like
Yes,
those-
there probably were.
100 tests with
And how would the 25 have broken into this, or gotten into this breakdown? You're absolutely correct.
So would it be 50 from old and 50 new? No.
Hold on, Kelsey. So we start with 100, right? And we divide 50 go to one category. Think about it as poker chips, right? Start with $100, right? 100 chips at the poker table, right? We divide. I don't even know how many. I don't gamble at casinos, so I don't know how high those chips get stacked. I guess it depends on what kind of chips it are, right?
Yeah.
But you got. Let's say you have your stack of chips, and you create 2 stacks now, right? And you split one to one side of the table, one to the other, right? Cut them in half, 50 and 50. But where does the 25 come from? That's your question, right?
Yeah, one of the last time.
Well, remember we actually have four blocks. And so 4 blocks have to account for 100 items presented in 4 different blocks. What's 100 divided by 4? 25. And so we take 25, and so now you have your poker chips. You have 2 stacks of chips now from your initial 1 stack. Now you cut each of those stacks in half, so you have 4 stacks. Make sense?
Yeah.
And now you have basically 25, 25, 25, and 25. In each of those respective conditions. Does that help a little bit?
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody on board with the idea? Anything else come up in the methods section that was a little funky or confusing that we can help sort out?
I like my fifth section is just kind of like, here's what I didn't like. And
Yep.
you just, as long as you get detail.
Yep. Yes, ma'am.
We added the questions at the end, include
Oh, yeah.
the log code, well, the questions at the end, like how well do you think you did, and
Yeah.
how you compare it. But
You can mention that.
Okay.
Question?
Just looking at your example in your other paper with your methods in the beginning, when you're like, oh, so and so many undergraduate students, and you put like 8 males. So there's like 8 out of, there's only 8 males out of the, for example.
Yes.
So why is it, why emphasize only that much more? When do we need to do
Why emphasize the
like how
gender?
many males? Yeah.
It's just a way of saying how many people in the experiment were each gender. And so if we say there's 8 females and there was 20 people in the experiment, you automatically know how many males there were, right? And vice versa.
Okay.
So it's probably just saving some text. It's just making it more concise. You know, I mean, basically there's not really a very good rhyme or reason to it. It's just a simpler way of saying it.
Okay.
Rather than saying 10 guys and 10 girls or whatever, you just say 10 guys. Or you can say 10 girls.
For methods, are we again using like the whole class everyone? I'm sorry, everyone's.
Yeah. Yeah, so if we're lucky, we'll get to that. So that's a really good question. So how many subjects are you guys going to write about in your method section that you included?
About 90, there's 18 of us, and we're in 2 groups, so it's 90.
No, you're right. The whole group may be collected about 90, but how many are you going to write about?
10 or
30.
Why don't we say 30? Well, what do you guys write in your draft so far? How many are in there? Is it a blank spot?
30. We keep saying.
I wrote because I wrote mostly about the behavioral aspect, so I just wrote about how like the experiment, we had like 10 groups, we had 2 people, 10 people to a group,
Okay.
like 10 people tested.
Yeah. Well, why don't you shoot for 30? If you want to write 40, if you want to write 35, you can do that. Leave it up to you guys. So remember the idea was that we had every group, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 90-ish groups, so we have about 80 or 90 subjects collected in data. So if you're so inclined, you can definitely write about the whole group. Absolutely. In fact, no, you can't, because we don't have 90 EEG patients to test correspondingly. We have a max of probably about 50. So you could pick between, let's say, between 30 and 50 subjects. That way you guys are all going to have different data. So you all have different results. Okay. So you can kind of pick your sample size in that regard. But
So you could use the 10 you had from
Yeah, and
for
so-
behavioral and then use
and
the
that's exactly what's going to happen. You're going to take your 10 subjects and you're going to randomly grab 20 other subjects that somebody else uploaded. And we'll all kind of work together as a team in that regard. Does that make sense? Yes, sir.
So, say you have like 36, we said you have 36 participants, then you'd have to grab 16 or 26 other, right? 26 other. It's always gonna be 30.
Whatever sample size you pick, you want to do your experiment on 30 people. That's your sample size. It's not going to bump up.
Well, say when we pick up 36,
And that'll be your sample size, 36.
so you do pick 26 others.
Why would you pick 26 others if you pick 36? I don't understand the question.
If you have 10 of your own,
Oh, yeah, well, yeah, of course, yeah. You would pick. Sorry, I didn't understand the question.
So you have like 26. So what he's saying is you have like 26 EPG data
Yeah.
and like 10,
Yeah,
10
so-
to 10 people.
Let's say that you're telling people that we tested a sample size of 30, right? You guys know that that's what the large N stands for from statistics?
Yeah.
Okay? You're going to tell them, about that. You want to mention, well, forget about that. You don't have to mention anything else about it. Sample size 30. Well, let's say you actually personally recorded your sample of 10, right? That means that when we get to the data analysis, which I'm trying to go slow on for the behavior, we haven't gotten to that, we're not touching it yet. In fact, we might do it Monday, but I'd like to save it until after the midterm, just not to confuse you guys with more stuff. But we'll see how things go today. But the point is, when we get to the behavioral data, you'll grab plus 20 other subjects, so that it's going to equal your sample size that you did. Is that logic okay with everybody? Cool. Okay. I think that's a really, I think, easy and good way to sort of draw upon our team effort. That way, none of you guys had to go out and collect 30 people. Unless you want to, of course. Anybody want to?
No.
Okay. Cool. Good deal. All right then. Anything else come up since last class? Questions, problems? Did anybody have problems practicing with the data on Monday after class? Monday night? No? The new data? Nobody did?
One week we downloaded on Monday when we got.
Yeah, the data sets folder. If nobody had trouble with that, then I think that means that nobody actually went home and did it on Monday.
I know you said
Because there was an error in it.
I was gonna say, I know you said
So did you guys see the little update I wrote on the Blackboard? Okay, so it's really easy. Except for I should exclude Brittany from that because she was working really hard on Monday and came back to me and said, it's not working. And we fixed it. So what it was is, let's see here. When we work with the EEG, and we'll get to that in just a second. When you're working in EEG lab, okay, we can have, there's basically, for each subject, you have a file that is basically an FDT and a set. And those letters it might be FTD, it's one of the two. I always get them confused, but it doesn't matter. The point is that you'll have that, let's say give me a subject number, a name of a file.
81.
81, so subject 81.ftd, it always has a set file as well. And so the idea here, just structurally so you understand what's happening, is that usually there's one big file that has like all the meat and potatoes, like the real substance of the data. It's the big file, has all the stuff. And then there's usually a second file that they call like a header file. That's more like the accoutrements, the salt and pepper of the meal. Basically the little bits of the naming issues and some additional information about the data. And so I think that when we downloaded that folder datasets, it only had these. It didn't have the dot sets. It was just a mistake that I had in uploading it. So that night, I think Brittany emailed me about 1 in the morning. I responded at about 1:15 a.m. Okay? Because I'm dedicated to you guys. Okay, love it? That's why I love it. And why was she up to 1:15? Because we were both working hard. And so I figured, I was up, I said, I'm going to figure this out right now, sort it out. And I just tried to load the data. I said, yeah, this sucks, it's not working. I figured out, you sort it out, you got an error, it said I cannot find that file name. And I said, no, it's in there. We looked at it back and forth, I said, oh, look at the file name. It was looking through this, and it only had that. And so I uploaded that into that extra folder, and if you saw the note I wrote, the announcement on Blackboard, then it just said, go snag that extra folder. I think, what do we call it, set files or something? Yeah. So you want to make sure you get that folder, that kind of it's called set.
Just download the whole thing?
Just download it. Just do exactly what the instructions say in the announcement on Blackboard, and you'll be cool. So I don't remember them verbatim off the top of my head, but if you download them and just snag those files and just paste them right into the same one with the FTD, the datasets folder, you're good, and it should work beautifully. So that will set us up for what we can do today. And that's a very relatively small size folder. It should go very quickly. Okay? And we can embark and let people start working with the data in that regard. So, let's see here. All right. Any other questions? Feel pretty good starting off? Okay.
I just have technical questions.
Yeah.
Just the my apologies.
Go
But
ahead. Okay. We can do that. Yes, Ryan.
Just when we're done, doing the 30 samples,
When you're doing analysis of it? Oh, you only research? Yeah,
Week I'm gonna be
we'll get
I know, like.
Okay, so we'll start work. The next little section I'll sort of introduce what we'd like to do with EEG, the next step today. And basically I'm going to show some structural organizational thing, and then we'll do that together so that we all have the same folder structure. Show you again, basically we'll set up a spot to save the data that you process. And then I also want to make sure that everyone has the same starting files, because sometimes, this happened to me, it only downloaded like some of the subject numbers last class for some wacky reason. I guess our internet network probably wasn't very happy that we were all downloading that or something. Anyways, it grabbed a handful of them, and so what we can do is download the other ones. So, and that's something you can do here, it's something you can do outside of class, whatever. But I'll show you a little bit about that, and then we'll dive in. So, let's see. So I'm getting my MATLAB opened up and running here. And so you should have MATLAB up, and you should always have that folder for our class available for as a resource on your browser in case we need to work with anything from there. So try to have that ready. And try to show you a little bit of some of the stuff that I'm shoot for here. Alright. Okay, we have MATLAB up, and we'll make that look clearer in just a second. So as a reminder, the first thing that we want to do, most of you guys were able to save your set path. And once you did that once, you'll never have to do it again. A couple people have different permission settings or on their computer in terms of administrative rights or however you've structured your desktops to be. Sometimes MATLAB won't let you save your path, so we have to redo that every time. So just in case you're one of those people, as a reminder, okay, what you'll do is you'll come up here, you'll hit set path. Most of you guys don't have to do this, by the way, but I just want to show you guys just in case. And you can verify that you don't need to set the path if it already has your path set to all these EEG lab folders, in which case you don't touch anything. If you needed to, you would hit add with subfolders and you would navigate to add that one EEG lab folder, and then you would hit close. They would ask you if you want to save it. You should say no in that regard because your settings are such that it won't save it. And that's all you do, and that's it. It's really easy. So just as a reminder there, so everyone's on the same page, I can cancel out of that because I don't need to do that. We want to make sure that our path, which is our address bar up here, shown in blue, that's just directed to our data folder. So we have that, and that should show a bunch of data in it. Okay? Okay. Now, let's see here. I know what we were talking about. So, if this is my folder for Psych 433X, which should be up there, we've got a bunch of stuff in here, right? Do you guys want to do a little bit of house cleaning?
Yes.
Okay, let's do some house cleaning. Let's go into the scripts folder. Okay? And within scripts, let's go to events list. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's back up and instead go to electrode locations. Now for electrode locations, we've been using this one here, right? Yeah? Everybody remember? So that means we probably don't need any of this other crap. So we will delete all of our other crap, and I'll show you how. The easiest way to do it is in here. I'll hit Control A or Open Apple A. It highlights everything. Hold the Control key down and re-hit or reselect our 40. So see how it unselected this? When you hold the Control key down, it's basically like an inverse function. So you have checked box in everything except the one we want. And then just hit the delete button. Make it a little easier? Cool. Alright, that's easy. Alright, little housekeeping. We're looking good. I will also delete the file I saved here last time of our three-dimensional scout map. because that was just me showing you some practice, so I don't need that again. And I want to make sure that my folder is not cluttered. So if you want to make sure your folder is not cluttered either, if you have something here, I can do that too. Okay, now here's what we talked about earlier. Remember, we've been in this data folder. We had been in the EEG version of it. And we had a handful of files that we had, 38, 37, 39. Those are kind of our practice ones. Then we went, in last class, we did our data sets folder, okay? And we downloaded a bunch of these. So when I downloaded them, let's take a look and see what it looked like. Looks like it got me a bunch of them. And yeah, probably about 58, bunch of drops. So looks like I actually did get a bunch of these subjects. But here's what I was mentioning a few moments ago. Notice how they're all .set, 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 set, set, set. Oh, here's the FDT. There's not a lot. There should be basically 2 for every subject. It should be just like subject 12 here, such that you have FDT and you have set. So anyways, here's the easy fix that we did. Okay, I went back. I did exactly what the instructions said on Blackboard. And when I grabbed and I downloaded that folder called set files, right? So down here, grabbing set files. Okay, what I can do is I go in there and I highlight everything by hitting Control A or Open Apple A. See how that highlights everything? Really easy. I can right click, or you can Control C shortcut, or Open Apple C. Okay, Control C. Come back into our data folder, go to our data sets, and you can paste by a shortcut of Open Apple V or Control V. And if it asks you to replace, just hit yes, replace those, and it just zips them in.
And when it asks if you want to replace them, you say yes.
Yes. Yes.
And when I downloaded the data sets, it didn't download every single FTT file. So when I put the set files in, do I need to go in and download everyone singularly, or no?
You can note the ones that didn't download
Okay.
and just download them individually and paste them and put them in.
Okay.
You can do that throughout class. You can do it after. I mean, you can do it whenever. Okay. So that makes sure that everything we have here is ready to go. Now let's continue with our house cleaning of our files. First of all, can I move on? Has anybody not done that? Okay. Did you? Okay.
I know. So I copied it, I did a Control A, copied it, and I moved it into the data sets, right?
Yes.
But I still have these open. My old data sets.
Download that folder, set files.
Yeah. I already controlled it.
That was extracted earlier. That's why I did this yesterday. That's why this was sent out yesterday. I just figured we would extract that. Okay, so I'm gonna delete some of these extra little files that I don't need here. We're gonna clean this stuff up. In ERPs, I think I had a couple of sample files that we did from class because they were just sample practice ones. I'm gonna delete these middle ones and just leave our spline file and my control subjects. And let's see. EEG. In EEG, I'm going to create a new folder. I'm just going to call it practice files. And I'm going to take all of the stuff we've been working on the last couple of days. I'm just going to dump it in there because that's all that was. It was really just practice. That'll clean that up a little bit. And then our data sets folder, I'm just going to move that within EEG. Look, that's not going to work. Because I'm directed to it here. So back up to data.
I just wanted to ask, because I did that, but I am still missing certain files, like certain files don't have STD files.
Yeah, because that's what I said a few moments ago, that it might not have all downloaded based on the network, so you can find out the ones that aren't there throughout this course on the side or at home or whatever, and just take those individually. Okay, so let's focus on that EEG element. So now we've cleaned that up a little bit, and let's open up our EEG lab. We'll type EEG lab into it. And one thing we can do right off the bat is you can set your directory by double-clicking on that EEG folder there. And what that'll do is, right now, our directory here is set to data. And we're going to go one folder into data and put it to EEG. So I'll click there. And then I'll do the same thing and I'll click inside data sets. So what that does is it sets our directory here from our Site 433 folder, data, EEG, data sets. And now it shows us what's inside that folder, which is all these individual subjects. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, etc., etc. Sound good? I'll give you guys a minute to sort that out. It's just set in your directory. So you just want to make sure you're navigating to the right side. You guys all in the right spot? You guys all in the right spot? We're working over here.